In this video, we're going to do a quick setup for the boot flaps. I've already taken the liberty of copying over our default stack that we have off to the left here, off screen here, and I've brought it over to be underneath the boot flaps blast node. So let's go ahead and hook everything up. I'm going to blow away this attribute paint, and put in a new one. Also, as far as chopping the geometry, we don't really have the same geometry here, so let's go to the top. I'm going to blow away all of these blast nodes, but we are going to create a one-sided piece of geometry. So I'm just going to put a null in here for now so that I can see the inputs as it's coming in. Let's go ahead and create a one-sided piece of geometry. I'll go ahead and do this real quick and pause the video and come back. Okay, I finished doing the one-sided chop, so we have a one-sided piece of mesh. Make sure your out node down here is what's selected. Let's go up one level. Okay, so now, should I remesh this? If I remesh this, I get these triangles that look okay, but these are already perfect squares, and I just wanted to show another method. If you wanted to do this, you could. You just use a divide node. I'm going to drop it in here as is, right? And it gives you pretty even triangles just by slicing through the squares that already exist. So let's go ahead and do that for now. We'll go ahead and keep that. And with that, I don't think we really need a polydoctor because it has some nodes on itself to remove slivers and little small places and stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it because it never hurts to actually make sure you have good geometry. All right, our point wrangle. Let's go ahead and change this. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in the text that I want to put in here. Let's paste it in. Okay, so we've declared everything to be boots. I'm calling this collision group boot flaps. And I think it's boot flaps or boots flaps. Boots flaps doesn't make any sense. Just a quick side note, I do agree that boot flaps sounds better than boots flaps. So I went back to the pants stream and their point wrangle, and inside the collision ignore, I changed it to boot flaps. But while I was there, I noticed I had left an extra string for collision ignore, so I decided to just either fix that string or just comment it out. So I decided to comment it out. So it's a good thing that I actually went back and did this. So I commented out this string right here. So we'll do boot flaps. And collision ignore, I'm ignoring the muddy part of the boots, which is the bottom part, as you saw earlier in our collision geometry video. And I'm also going to be ignoring pants, but not the whole parts of the pants, just the pants tucked part. I want these flaps to actually collide with the other one, otherwise it looks weird. So we got our point deform, should be working. Let's go ahead and create a default setup for the cloth now. Let's start by deleting all these old nodes. And we'll lay down a new cloth configure node, followed by a vellum constraint, and we'll set that to pin to target. After that, we'll add a vellum solver and a vellum IO node, and we'll hook those up. We'll change the last frame on the vellum IO node to RFN, render frame end, so that it ends at 1226. Then we'll add the vellum pack node with the standard null for the out underscore boot flaps. We'll color that up. And we'll copy the string from the previous vellum IO and modify it so that it works with boots and change it to version 1. And then we'll rename the vellum IO node to vellum underscore boot flaps. Set our collision object in here. And let's go ahead and paint our pin to target points. So in our attribute, we'll change this to animation. We'll make sure it's selected. We will brush. And I just want the tops to be kind of following where they need to be. Let's create a quick masking group so that we can paint our areas. Let's select these little rings on each boot, and we'll grow the selection, and then we'll convert to points, Control-Shift-2, and then we'll create a quick group in the viewfinder. We'll call those anim points. Then we'll have to move it in the hierarchy to be in front of the attribute paint, and we'll select anim points from there, and we'll just flood that area with our brush, just giant brush filling it up with red. Make sure we get it all around the corners here. That's right. Now let's remove that node. Oh, let's put it back. Got to paint that little red spot there. Let's scroll down to our velcon. Okay, and the points that I want to use are at animation. It's greater than 0.5 to the points up there at the top. And again, I usually make this, always forget to do this. Just soft. You don't have to change any of these default settings right now. We're not in the phase where we're actually going to tune any of this stuff. We just want it to follow. And I believe that's all we have to do. So put it to 5 substeps. Okay. And let's go ahead and simulate. So I'm going to file save as. We'll do version 8. Okay, let's simulate save to disk. Okay, the boot flaps are simulating right now. We'll come back when the job is done. The boot flap sim results are in, and we have a little bit of mixed results. The movement looks okay when it's running and moving, but you can see some weird shearing and points ripping here. That's because the collision object is fighting with the pin to target constraint. You can see this more evidently if I turn on the collision object here, or the collision body. So I'm going to zoom in here. You can see there's points here on the boot. We did not include the boot in our erosion operation, so the boot and the body have this giant area where they're colliding and it's pressing the cloth on the inside. The points in the middle seem to be doing okay. Like I said, it's the points on the edge that do this weird shearing action, and you can see that that's where these points are actually having problems right here. I was going to fix it in this video. So I think what we want to do is create another video where we go back and add the boots over to the erosion operation so that they'll be seen there. But we also have to model in and blend. These boots have a very sharp edge where they're kind of like a little cliff at the beginning. So if we actually move back to the start frame and we actually looked at our entire collision object here, we would see what I'm talking about. See this little cliff right here, this little point off right here, and if we just slap this in and merged it before we made a volume, this is capped and this is capped, so it'll see them as two separates, and so it'll actually push away from these 2 points, creating a gap. That's not what we want, because anything like a cape or whatever can get caught inside that little gap. So in the next video, I'm going to create a little update to our collision objects, and then we'll resim the boot flaps, and we'll see what kind of results we get.